Namibia, a country known for its stunning landscapes and rich cultural heritage, holds a dark chapter in its history that is often overlooked. Between 1884 and 1915, Namibia was a German colony, and during this time, some of the most brutal atrocities were committed by the German colonial forces. These events are not just a footnote in history, but a series of harrowing episodes that have left an indelible mark on the nation's collective memory. In this video, we will delve into the grim history of Namibia under German rule, exploring the genocide, concentration camps, and other brutal acts that have shaped the country's past. Before we proceed, please take a few seconds and click the subscribe button below to join this history community. To understand these atrocities, we must first look at the beginning of German colonization in Namibia. In 1884, Namibia, then known as German Southwest Africa, was declared a German protectorate. The German Empire sought to expand its territories and exploit the land's resources, particularly its fertile soil and mineral wealth. However, the arrival of the Germans led to the displacement of indigenous communities, particularly the Herero, Nama and other ethnic groups, setting the stage for a violent and oppressive regime. The German colonists viewed the native populations as obstacles to their economic ambitions, leading to a series of conflicts that would culminate in horrific violence. The German colonial rule faced resistance from the local populations, particularly the Herero and Nama people. In 1904, the Herero, under the leadership of Samuel Maharero, rose in rebellion against the German colonial forces. They were soon joined by the Nama, led by Hendrik Witbooi. These rebellions were sparked by years of exploitation, land seizures, and oppressive policies imposed by the Germans. The German response to these uprisings was brutal. The colonial administration, under the command of General Lothar von Trotha, issued the infamous extermination order declaring that the Herero people must leave the region or face annihilation. This marked the beginning of one of the first genocides of the 20th century. The Germans implemented scorched earth policies, deliberately destroying villages, crops and livestock to starve the local populations into submission. Women and children were not spared. Many were raped, tortured and killed by soldiers. Additionally, the German authorities imposed harsh taxes and forced labor on the surviving populations, further exacerbating their suffering. The systematic exploitation and abuse of the indigenous people were integral to the colonial strategy, aiming to break the spirit of resistance and establish complete control over the region. These atrocities, though less documented, contributed significantly to the long-lasting trauma and devastation experienced by Namibia's indigenous communities. Following the extermination order, the German forces launched a campaign of mass killings. The Herero people were driven into the arid Omaheke Desert, where they were left to die of thirst and starvation. Those who tried to return were shot on sight. It is estimated that up to 80% of the Herero population was wiped out during this period. The Nama faced similar brutality. Many were killed in battle, while others were captured and sent to concentration camps. The German forces used modern weapons, including machine guns, to carry out these massacres, showing no mercy to the indigenous populations. This genocide was characterized by extreme violence, including the use of poisoned wells to prevent the Herero from accessing water. After the initial wave of mass killings, those who survived were subjected to horrific conditions in German-run concentration camps. These camps, located in places like Shark Island, Windhoek and Swakopmund, were sites of unimaginable suffering. Men, women and children were forced into hard labor, constructing railways and working in mines under brutal conditions. The mortality rate in these camps was staggering. In Shark Island, for example, over half of the prisoners died due to malnutrition, disease, and exposure to the harsh weather. The Germans conducted medical experiments on the prisoners, treating them as subhuman. The camps were essentially death camps, with prisoners facing a slow and painful demise. One of the most disturbing aspects of the German colonial atrocities in Namibia was the theft of human remains. After killing Herero and Nama people, German soldiers decapitated some of their victims and sent the heads to Germany. These skulls were used for pseudoscientific research to support racist theories of European superiority. This gruesome practice was part of a broader trend in European anthropology at the time, where human remains from colonized peoples were collected and studied without consent. The remains of the Namibian victims were displayed in museums and used in studies that dehumanized and degraded the memory of the people from whom they were taken. It wasn't until the early 21st century that some of these remains were repatriated to Namibia, but the legacy of this theft continues to haunt the nation. The German colonial regime also engaged in cultural and psychological warfare against the Namibian people. Traditional practices, languages and beliefs were systematically suppressed, with the colonial authorities imposing European customs and Christianity in their place. Indigenous leaders and spiritual figures who resisted these cultural impositions were often targeted for persecution, imprisonment or execution. Furthermore, the Germans employed divide-and-rule tactics, pitting different ethnic groups against one another to weaken collective resistance. This strategy fostered mistrust and division among the communities, which has had lasting effects on the social cohesion of Namibia. The forced assimilation, combined with the erasure of cultural identities, inflicted deep psychological wounds that continue to affect the descendants of those who lived through this dark period. The German atrocities in Namibia left deep scars that persist to this day. The genocide and the brutal treatment of the Herero and Nama people decimated entire communities and disrupted the social fabric of the region. The land seized by the Germans remained in the hands of colonial settlers, leading to long-standing economic disparities that continue to affect Namibia's indigenous populations. In recent years, there have been efforts to address this dark chapter in history. The Namibian government and the descendants of the Herero and Nama people have sought reparations and formal apologies from the German government. While Germany has acknowledged the atrocities and referred to them as genocide, the issue of reparations remains a contentious topic, with ongoing negotiations and demands for justice. The atrocities committed by Germany in Namibia are a stark reminder of the horrors of colonialism and the devastating impact it had on indigenous populations. The genocide of the Herero and Nama people is a dark chapter that should never be forgotten. As we remember the victims and honor their memory, it is crucial to continue the fight for justice and recognition for those who suffered under colonial rule. If you found this video informative, please like, share and subscribe to our channel for more content on history and human rights.